This is a story that you and Asa and Tamara have been tracking for years. Elizabeth Tsurkov was released from 900 days in some sort of captivity. What is the significance of this story? Remind us who Elizabeth Tsurkov is and why it's important to remember what she has done.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. Elizabeth Tsurkov is a Russian-born Israeli, and as you said, she was captive in Iraq under rather mysterious circumstances for 903 days, and just yesterday apparently was returned to Israel. She was also a graduate student at Princeton. As we can see, the president of Princeton University issued a statement welcoming her release, saying it brings relief and joy to the university community and that we celebrate she will be reunited with her family. President Christopher Eisgruber of Princeton actually thanks President Trump for her release, but it's also clear from some of the media reports coming out that the circumstances surrounding her release are rather murky. We can see the Wall Street Journal reporting yesterday, the headline there, Princeton doctoral student freed after being kidnapped in Iraq, that Elizabeth Tsurkov's ordeal began more than 2 years ago when the Princeton University PhD candidate was kidnapped from a cafe in Baghdad where she had gone to carry out field research. I'll come back to that because that's a big question. It says that her ordeal ended Tuesday when she appeared unexpectedly near the American embassy in Baghdad, showing the wear and tear of her 903 days in U.S. captivity, a U.S. official said. Her release was announced on Truth Social by President Trump, who said she'd been held by Kataib Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed militia, and is now safely in the American embassy. She's not a U.S. citizen, by the way, but the U.S. has treated her almost as if she is, for the purpose of trying to get her out. Uh, as the Wall Street Journal acknowledges, the circumstances of Tsurkov's release are unclear. Adam Boehler, the U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Response, traveled to Iraq earlier this year to seek the help of Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Sudani, who had been eager to preserve a modicum of American support for fear that Islamic State might make a comeback. Um, Tsurkov's sister Emma, who is an American citizen, mounted an intensive campaign to draw attention to her plight, imploring the Iraqi prime minister during one of his visits to Washington to do more to help free her sister. And then it says that after Tsurkov was freed, Sudani, the Iraqi prime minister, sent a letter to Trump saying that her release was a gift for Trump. According to senior administration officials, Sudani didn't mention the letter in a social media post Tuesday. There's some interesting revelations or tidbits from the Israeli media. Tal Schneider, an Israeli journalist, pointing to a story from the Times of Israel in Hebrew, uh, that says that her release came about thanks to the tremendous efforts of Adam Boehler, that's the US hostage negotiator, and the family representative, Mickey Bergman. The Israeli side, meaning the government, had almost no hand in the matter. If anything, they were aiming at other interests in the region and haven't achieved them so far. So says Tal Schneider. And Avi Sharf, who is a journalist with Haaretz and the former editor of its English edition, writes, commenting on the Times of Israel story, the amazing detail here, Elizabeth's sister received significant updates ahead of the release and hid them from Netanyahu's representative Gal Hirsch, who was only updated after the fact about the release. So that again just points to, I've just throw this out there now, we won't spend a lot of time on it, but points to the Israeli government's consistent lack of interest in freeing its citizens who are in captivity. They are abandoned by this government, whether they're in Gaza or Elizabeth Tsurkov in Iraq. Now, some interesting news from Iran's Tasnim news agency, reported by Al Mayadeen, that says that Tsurkov's release in Iraq came as part of a swap deal that that secured the freedom of Lebanese civilian naval officer Imad Amhaz, who was abducted by Israel last year during its war in Lebanon. According to the agency, the exchange was the outcome of special efforts and resolved a case that had remained unsettled for over a year between Iraq, Lebanon, and Israel. So we don't know all the details, but clearly something went on. Now, the question about who Elizabeth Tsurkov is, this is really interesting. As I noted, she's Russian-born, moved to an Israeli settlement at a very young age with her parents. As she grew up, she worked for the right-wing Zionist politician Natan Sharansky. She was in Israeli military intelligence during the 2006 Israeli war in Lebanon and remained in the reserves till about 2018, I believe. She went to Hebrew University, and then she came to the University of Chicago to do a graduate degree, and then she went on to Princeton to work on her PhD. Now, many of us knew of her for many years. She was active on social media, supporting so-called Arab Spring uprisings, especially in Syria. As we document in our article, she expressed anti-Shia sectarian views and aligned herself with the US Israeli-backed insurgency in Syria, which, as we know, eventually did overthrow the government of Syria in December. And she often bragged about being, and this is very strange for an Israeli, she bragged openly about being in direct contact with and acting as a confidant for members of these Syrian Salafi groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, who were engaged in this insurgency. And in fact, she revealed, or she did, I can't remember if she was the first, but this was the most comprehensive at the time in 2018 confirmation that Israel was arming and funding some of these rebel groups in Syria. You see the headline there from Foreign Policy, and her byline, Elizabeth Tsurkov, in 2018, and she wrote this article headlined, "Inside Israel's Program to Back Syria's Rebels." Now, what's very interesting about her is that, again, I'd been following her on social media for years. She claimed for years to struggle with Arabic, and we document this in the article tweet after tweet, where she says, "I've been learning Arabic for years. I can't pick it up. It's so difficult. I'm bad at languages." And, to be honest, it's very hard to learn a new language as an adult. I've been learning Turkish for a few years, and it's like it's a struggle, and you feel that. So I can sympathize with her. But then take a look at this video of her in Iraq, which is just absolutely extraordinary. And this would have been, some not very long before she disappeared in March 2023.
السلام عليكم ست.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة
بما أنك صحفية، وصفي لنا صلاة الجمعة، شنو رأيك فيها؟
صلاة الجمعة يعني بمدينة الصدر معروفة جدا كحادث تاريخي له يعني جذور من التسعينات، فحبيت أحضر هاي صلاة الجمعة بالضبط بهذا الجامعة بسبب تاريخه
يعني جيت مدينة الصدر؟
إيه.
الكوفة ما رايحة للكوفة؟
رحت الكوفة سابقا.
زمن سيد الشهيد
لا يعني
زمن سيد مقتدى الصدر.
ايه بالضبط، يعني انا صغيرة بالعمر، يعني مو لي هاي الدرجة انه قدرت اروح بايام الكوفة. ايه ف هذا المكان، يعني هذا مدينة الصدر هي معروفة حتى من ناحية دولية كمكان اللي ولد ثورات وانتفاضات، وخاصة هذا الجامع
يعني رمز للشجاعة.
ايه للشجاعة ومقاومة ضد أي ظالم، يعني ظالم إذا هو يعني محلي مثل صدام أو دولي مثل أمريكا.
I mean, the Israeli comes out in her there's a lot of like but
yeah, but this is extraordinarily fluent Arabic, and if you listen to the rest of the interview, with an Iraqi accent. She speaks like Iraqi dialect. It's extraordinary. and it's totally incongruous with the image she presents on social media over years, again documented in our article from 2023, of just being completely unable to learn Arabic. I mean, you could learn Arabic at that level, but it would take real immersion. And in her social media, there is no evidence of that. She never says, I'm taking, she's very open, but she never says, I'm taking, this deep immersion class in Arabic. It's just very strange. In any case, what was she doing in Iraq? When it was revealed in 2023 that she had disappeared in Iraq, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and many others claimed that she was in Iraq doing research on her Princeton University PhD. But this could not have been true. And we document this in the article because Princeton University very strictly prohibits any university related business, including research for any degree program in Iraq and a small number of other countries that it calls category X countries, because they're just too dangerous. And we lay this all out in the article that it was absolutely forbidden. They say, even if you make a personal visit to one of these countries, no matter who it's paid for, you are prohibited from doing any university related business. So this story that we see repeated, that she was there doing research for Princeton, cannot be true. But despite that, there's at least one report that we cite in the article of someone who met her in Iraq, who said she presented a university ID in order to gain credibility. And she was trying to meet leaders of the Iraqi resistance and the Sadrist movement, whom she opposed, these Shia leaders that she had very strong views against. Why is an Israeli researcher going to Sadr city and trying to meet them? It's extraordinary. And she also had other very unexplained travels to other parts of Iraq and to Lebanon as well, where Israelis are prohibited from entering, both by the Israeli government and the Lebanese government. And she had criticized other Israelis for meeting with Arabs in Arab countries where such contacts could put those people in danger. But she went ahead and did this in at least Iraq and Lebanon, as mentioned, concealing her true identity and often using false or altered names and presenting herself as a Russian and not Israeli. So it's a very mysterious story. We don't know, be interesting to see what she says about it if she decides to speak publicly, and if we'll ever get real answers as to what she was actually doing in Iraq and in Lebanon.
Well, we can take bets.
Ali, we had a lot of people in the comments asking what she said in that video, in that conversation in Iraq. I believe she was essentially she was presenting herself as a supporter of Sadr, right?
Very much so. I mean, we do go into that in our article, so I'll refer people to that. Maybe Tamara, you can put it up again so people can see the headline, and I'll read it. But yeah, she's going to gain the confidence of these people she views as enemies, and so she says, she praises Sadr, the leader of this Muqtada Sadr, the leader of this significant Shia movement in Iraq, and she says that he's taking good positions against all oppressors, including the United States, who she names as an oppressor, even though she's a full supporter of American military intervention in the region, especially in Syria at that time. Tamara, if you could just put the headline back up again so that I can just read it for people who are listening. What we know about Elizabeth Tsurkov, and this was an article written by myself, by you, Tamara, and by Asa, that we published at the Electronic Intifada in July of 2023. She disappeared in Iraq in March, but this became public knowledge or widely shared knowledge a couple of months after she disappeared.
Well, thanks for that. We will continue to follow that story.